Well, it's really great. In fact, we've always felt it was a really good API. I mean, very positive responses over time to how easy it is to use. So it's great to get recognition and just boost us. There's quite a lot of lessons. The API is continually evolving, and the impact on the business very much over time they're having to think about the use of the API by third parties rather than just by the internal organisation. So that's having quite an impact on the way we work. Yes, we do, and we have a number of things in the works, and we are in a progress of learning how to give them the best experience and help them to do what they need to do. Some of that has been learned from the developer program we have, from having independent developers, but partners' needs are slightly different. It does feed across from one thing to the other. I would say in terms of bringing attention to what we have, it certainly does, because people might play with the open API just because it's there, because they bought a Hues system, and then that inspires them to look at their own product range and how they can integrate with Hues. So that's definitely one of the benefits that come out. Definitely broadening out, the awareness of it has grown significantly. I think we still have a way to go, but what we have learned is now valuable to others in Philips, and people are starting to look to us to take advice on what we have done with our API and our developer program, and use it in their own programs. Yeah, you could say that. I think because we've got the most experience and we've done it, I mean, other people want to do it, but we've been doing it for a while and we've learned the good and the bad, the things to do well and the things where we make mistakes as well. Yeah, that is something definitely that's being evangelized within the company itself, to see the benefits of having a platform. But I think that's happening by experience broadly in the company as they're seeing the benefits that accrue. I think it is difficult to see them until they happen. I think the main difference will be obviously to continually improve the quality of the program and the information we provide, the tools we provide, but also to become more proactive, more active with developers rather than provide the API and let them do what they do. That's still extremely useful, especially for the creativity. But we can start to direct more and say, hey, we'd really like you to just look at this area and we'll give you some help in the process. That's one of the big changes, I think. Yeah. You know, because there are a few, you might say, categories of things we'd like people to do, which we can now look at. And that's a two-way process. We're learning what they're doing, what they're finding, and feeding back both ways. I think the biggest surprise is just the amount of creativity and the range of people's creativity. It's always interesting to do, say, a hackathon and find that there's virtually nothing you've seen before being invented in that hackathon, even though you've seen so many. And that's, I think, always surprising. And the enthusiasm, the energy that it creates as well, the fun people have, that's really great as well. Well, one of the main things is that our characteristic differences of our API is that it's in the home. It's not directly through our servers normally. So we're not getting data from that. That's being done with the calls to the bridge, which is on the local Wi-Fi network. So yes, there is data, undoubtedly, but not as much as you might get if you were completely a web-based API, which we're not exclusively. Yeah, and we are increasingly getting good information in that area, and we recently started promoting third-party developers' apps directly in our own app, and we're able to get some initial feedback from developers that it's given them a considerable boost. So we are giving them a much better avenue to their own customers than they can find just by being on an app store, and hoping that people who own Hue find them. I'm always surprised by the eccentric apps myself, but also there is such a range in you know, using it to make a story that you're reading to a child more interesting by the lights following the story and highlighting the scene, to a nice sunrise when you're waking up, to match the changes in the sun, to various different things. You know, music is obviously a very popular one as well. Yeah, and I think also it's always important to realize that there is mood created by Hue, by lights, but there's also information, and the gentle communication of information by the fact you have your lights on and you're just watching TV, but then one of them changes the color to tell you something, that it's just received information. That's so gentle compared to checking your phone every few minutes to see if that thing has happened or worrying about it. You just know that you'll be told, and you'll be told in a way that it's not an alarm, it's a very gentle information. It's easier, but we're still progressing through that. I mean, one of the challenges is that we're neither product development nor marketing. We're somewhere in between. So where do you put us is always a decision to be made. So we're kind of a new division, and therefore structures aren't in place for this new type of business. Well, yes. I mean, a good example would be, say, we're in marketing, but we need application engineers. So that's not a marketing function. It's more on R&D side. So yeah, it's structurally different, and it aligns with other things, but it's not quite the same. It is a new business model. I think they have to realize it's a serious piece of business, and it has its own business model. The difficult part is you would have trouble arguing at the beginning what it brings to the business in terms of money. It's an indirect benefit. So you have to be creatively thinking about how you prove return on investment. But I would say it's not that different to advertising. If you place an advert in a magazine, you aren't necessarily going to know which sales came from that advert, but you wouldn't say you don't need to advertise. And I think you need to think of the API along those lines. There's an ecosystem, and also you've got to look at, if you've got hundreds of apps being developed, that's an investment in research and development by other companies in your product. They're not only testing out what you have, but they're pushing it as well and helping you to see what else you need to do. So that's money that, in millions of dollars, that other people are spending on your product. And that's not to be discounted as well. So, and they are marketing the product indirectly, because if they market a product for Hue, they're marketing Hue. It's very good, actually. It's a lot of fun. It has its because you're enabling other people. It's an interesting and fun environment to work in. I mean, a good example, I think, would be all of the developers that we have taken to hackathons, who are developers from the Hue team, always want to do more, because it's their chance to see the customer, see the developers, the customers, see what their problems are, interact with them, see their ideas. It's an exciting event for them, and it's more their management that might not want them to go because they've got other tasks for them, but they're always very, very positive, and I experience that directly, and it's always good. Yeah.
So would you
and I actually talk to developers directly as well. I ring them up and speak to them, and that's really good too, to get feedback on what they like, what they enjoy, and also where there are problems or where they'd like us to change things. But they're bright people, and they come up with some really good stuff. Again, that's good R&D for us. You know. Yes, there is, and you mustn't discount the importance of peer-to-peer communication as well between the developers. They do a lot of helping each other, and you need to provide the infrastructure to do that as well.